We are delighted that you're joining us for another podcast of Wake Up Aligned, and it is the podcast for chiropractors where we get to talk about chiropractic lifestyle, and topics of interest. You can contact us through our email, and that is mailbag@amcfamily.com. Welcome back to another episode of Wake Up Aligned. We're here to motivate you, empower you, and inspire you to serve your community. We just wrapped up a conversation last week on marketing, and that was the first of maybe 2 or 3. We're certainly going to do a second one today. So if you are joining this podcast, if maybe someone sent this to you as a share and you feel like you're a little bit lost, there's a Marketing One podcast that happened last week. So go back to the podcast menu, search that one out, and then come back and join us, because this is some good stuff, as your dad used to say. I'm joined with my friend Tom Owen. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
Excellent.
Good. Did you have a nice lunch earlier today?
I suppose so. Yeah. Hey, man, you just got to squeeze it in. You got so much going on. I don't have time for it. I don't have time for lunch. But you just grab it where you can.
For you listeners, Tom was wolfing down some food in between podcasts here. So there's the inside joke there. We were talking about marketing last time, and we have some doctors who are in our group doing some marketing and starting to get some results. And I thought we like to start off with shout outs, and we just got rolling last episode. Didn't get a chance to do that. But the first one on the top of my list is Dr. Suarez. Dr. Suarez opened her clinic not too long ago, and I heard that she had completed her first health talk, went out and did a health talk, did it the way Dr. Crivo, one of our mentors, recommended that she do it, closed out or booked out 4 people from that event. So that was very exciting for her. We also have Dr. Wilson, Dr. Zach Wilson, he's actually a mentor and an instructor, but they just ran. Remember the greeting cards that we did back in the day, and some people still do, but it's not quite as in vogue. They just did a Valentine's Day greeting card, and the last result that I'd heard is they had booked over 12 people internally, referral from that event. So that was super exciting for them.
And what do you like better, a referral or an external, from where you're starting? So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, those greeting cards you can call about in vogue all you want. I go down to the fact of marketing. I know we said it on the last one, is an art, not a science. And you want to get as many roads open as you can. Now, is a greeting card, first of all, you got to know how to do it. Right. There's a lot of little nuances to making that thing work and work every time. The hand address, all those components that you and I know about. But the key is how much did you spend? How much did it cost in time and money? And, and what does it produce? Now, would I do a greeting card 12 months a year? No, but if it was part of an annual marketing calendar, which I know you could spend some time unpacking, how many listeners actually have worked out a 12-month in advance marketing calendar that can change, it can evolve throughout the year, but the basis of it's set 12 months out. And now, timed wise, for example, where you're talking about this example, this shout out, I bet that was on the books some time ago to be prepared to do it right with the execution and, launching onto the off holiday, mm-hmm. Right? There's a lot of little nuances to that makes that work. But 12 direct referrals for probably something that costs, if I had to guess, less than $500. That's pretty good.
That's not too shabby. You mentioned that, and we've talked a lot about a lot of different types of marketing and vehicles and approaches. And I think that was really important to share what you just shared. Listeners, every single one of those has its own unique set of parameters, characteristics. You got to do it the right way. You can't just go out there and say, let me get a Valentine's card off the card stock from my printer and send that out to everybody. That is not what we're talking about. If you do it the right way, the way that plays by the rules, well, now we have some results to expect.
Yeah, you've got a strategy.
Exactly.
And you've got statistics that can back up as to what you can expect to produce from something like that. So, yeah.
A couple more shout outs real quick here. Dr. Bruce Lee got his office opened last year. He had a really, really strong month. I think that was January, might have been February, but starting to climb and do well. And he didn't have the easiest time getting open. So that perseverance, that persistence that we talked about on a previous podcast, alive and well for him. And Dr. Jason Cox. Dr. Jason is an associate with Dr. Polly Hediger's office.
Yeah.
And out there in Fort Mojave. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Polly is every week on the call. She's talking about all of his efforts and what he's doing. That man, there's no stone he won't overturn.
He's very consistent, persistent. I see him, we talk about the statistics, things that we know. We flat out know when this takes place, the results come later. All right. There's an actual, I'll call it a principle that says where your mind is today, or no, where your business is today is where your mind was 90 days ago. That's that setting expectations and things of that nature. He is reaping the rewards of a lot of consistent and persistent effort that I have watched over the last year or 6 months to a year. That guy has been there. Like I said, there's certain components that we know when you see it as a mentor, as a coach, we know the production's coming, right? So when you see consistent summit attendance inside the Aligned family, when you see somebody attend 6 in a row all year long, or you see somebody that's going to certified training center visits, things of that nature, you know the production's coming. And that guy has been at a lot of summits from the get-go. So I'm very proud of him, excited.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a matter of time before that all gels for him. And of course, he's got a good opportunity there in Dr. Polly's office. So, all right, we are going to get back to that marketing conversation, and I want to ask you to take us through criteria, parameters. Marketing has to meet a budget. You have to be able to judge, is this worth the money spending? So we don't know how to do that. I need you to help us sort through those details. You also mentioned on the last podcast, how much money should you be devoting to your marketing efforts at a minimum every month? And you had a couple of criteria there. So before I turn it over to you, we have used the concept, listeners, of marketing your business is like a town square, right? All the roads lead to that town square, and you can choose to not use a road. You can choose to emphasize certain roads to your business, but the more roads you have coming to your business, the better the marketing is typically going to be. And this thought came to me about social media. If social media is your main road to your town square, then just be aware you are using a road that is always under construction. And if you've ever had to drive a path to your work where you're always on that road under construction, you know how frustrating and unpredictable it can be. So just be aware of that. It's not that social media is bad. It's not bad.
Well, it's here to stay.
It's here to stay for sure. But you just have to be very careful about that. So,
but the idea that it's the end all and the answer to all your marketing concerns, that's really foolish to think that.
All right. So talk to us about criteria, parameters. How much money should we be spending to produce a new patient? How do we know that it is within that parameter? Is it the people converting to care? Is it people who stick around more than 12, 14 visits? Is it phone calls? Take us through what you know about the criteria. So as a business approach, give us some numbers that we can use as a guide.
Well, before I go into that, Dr. Shannon, I'm a little hesitant just to start rattling off okay, well, how, what amount of money should you be spending? What kind of return and things of that nature? Because I'm wrapping my marketing, okay, all that I know about marketing. And that's probably one of my fortes. I mean, I've been known for a long time. But, I only want to start my marketing strategy once I have the confidence of what it will produce when it crosses my threshold. All right. Because there's a lot of practitioners out there running with the wrong model of practice.
Okay.
They're running a friendship practice where there is no systematic components. There's a lot of shooting from the hip. You've got the pain model where the patients are gone in 6 visits anyway. That's a lose-lose model. I don't want to that's not the subject of today's episode, but that's a lose-lose model, right? The patient's going to be, when they're out of pain, they're gone. When they're still in pain, they're gone. It happens around the 6th visit. Now, what's the doctor looking for? Doctor's looking for more new patients. Well, the problem is that it's not a matter of buying the new business. It's not that strategy that's failing you. It's the system within it. So when I put those components together and I say, well, how much money should I be spending? I'm looking at it as an overall business model of, okay, what will that produce? Because I have to have that confidence. And I know you and I have talked about this on other episodes. It's nice to get to say February 28th or April 30th and May 31st. It's nice to get to those dates and flip the calendar over when overhead starts over again, right? It's nice having some confidence on, I already know what my business system and model is going to produce. Now, here's a principle that I haven't even mentioned on either one of the episodes is you advertise to gain, you refer to maintain.
Say that again.
Right. You advertise to gain, you refer to maintain. And when you don't have a system in place that will sustain you at whatever level of practice you're at. So if you're at 250 visits a week, or you're at $45,000 collection a month or $4,000 collection a month, doesn't really matter. If your referrals should be able to sustain that business month in, month out, month in, month out. So if you're doing $30,000 a month, you should be able to reproduce $30,000 a month off of referrals. And we would use marketing outreach to expand and grow that. All right. That's when you have a very strong business model that you can count on month in and month out as the calendar flips over. So when you asked me that, I mean, what are some components, or what's my strategy? That's a dangerous one, because there's the vast majority of the listeners don't have the system model in place to be able to quantify how much am I really willing to spend. Well, if you're going to keep doing 6 visit averages, or 15 visit averages, and your care plans are this, or you don't even do care plans because care plans is an evil word. There's another episode for another time, right? All these factors. Well, marketing is just one small component of it. And if I can't know that, okay, if I do, I know you've mentioned the Valentine's greeting card. Somebody did that and got 12 direct referrals out of it. Well, if I know that out of those 12, and I'm an aligned family member, I know out of those 12, 85 to 90% of those are going, I can confidently expect, because it takes me time to process those 12 new patients, right? And I can confidently expect that I have a system that 85 to 90% of those are going to accept my recommendations, follow through, and I'm going to retain them, right? And then out of 12, I think that was the example, right?
All right.
Out of those 12, we should probably be looking at 9 of those accepting care. Well, what's our care plan? Our care plan, $3,000 a care plan, something like that. I don't know, that maybe an average. Well, that's $27,000 to $30,000 of business that I know is coming in over the next 60 to 90 days. Right. That's how you build a business model and an understanding of what am I willing to spend. Okay. So that was a loaded question when you threw it to me, and I just didn't want to just, well, yeah, I'm willing, and this is what I'm willing to spend. Well, that's because I know what to expect. So if I do have a case average, let's say around 3,000, well, typically then I'm going to want to be setting aside a minimum of 10% of that into my marketing budget. Now, month by month, I may or may not be able to necessarily spend that on social media. I'm not going to do that. It's going to be spread out. I'm going to be strategic with it, but I'm going to have it set aside. So where 1 month I might spend 3,000, 1 month I might spend 1,800, another month I'm spending $4,000 based on the timing, because marketing is an art, not a science. It's about getting the right message at the right time to the right person, fulfill the right need. So that's how I build that. So I hopefully I answered it. Basically, it's about 10% of the revenue that you can count on that's going to come in over the course of the next 60 to 90 days, and base it off of I tend to base it off of my gross collections, not my net collections.
Okay.
All right. That your net collections, you're going to run everything you can through that office, and you're going to say, well, I only net $5,000, but no, you collected 30 and you chose to spend it on your car expense or your malpractice or your health insurance or whatever you're spending that on, your cell phone, things of those necessities. No, I'm grossing $30,000. I should be setting aside a minimum of $3,000. Could be upwards to 4,500, and that will grow as my practice grows. Okay. And that's how you dominate a market. So if I came to Columbia, right, way back in the day, and I came and talked to you, Dr. Shannon, like my dad would have. My dad used to do this. I mean, he would come to your town, sit down with you, and he'd say, this is a fantastic market. I know what I'm looking at. You're underserving it. So would you like to work together, or would you like for me to come and open a practice here? That kind of thing. It's like, the point is, the marketing is a piece of the overall of the overall picture.
As a clinic grows, because we have some clinics that are just starting. We mentioned that earlier on the shout outs here, some brand new practitioners first out of school. We also have some clinics that have been established with us for going on 2 decades now. And, it's not uncommon today to see some of those clinics collecting $90,000, $100,000, $120,000 a month. Would you recommend that type of clinic continue to invest that 10% back into it? Or is there a point where it begins to cap?
Well, it also depends on the capacity.
Okay.
What's the overall objective here? If that practice is going to want to spread to other markets, and you're going to get into multiple clinics, you're going to get into multiple components of the practice. That's where, a piece of my marketing would go into other strategic, if I'm going to bring in decompression, right? My marketing budget is going to pour, first of all, I'm going to have that money set aside, and that's going to be part of my marketing, so I can go after specific conditions in my community. So it's an expansion of market ownership. Okay. So you can't talk about marketing, because when I say the word marketing, you say the word marketing, what does everyone think of? What does the average person think of when I say marketing? They think of advertising. In their head, they think marketing means advertising or promotion, when no, it's messaging to your market. That's what the essence of marketing is. So as you asked me, when the practices get larger and larger and larger, that's where where Dr. Owen was coming in and sitting down with you. He's going to come and own the market. That's market saturation. That's where there's so much money being spent. Some of it's for direct response. Yes, some of it is a mailer. Some of it is social media. Some of it is directed to, I'm going to spend it. I'm expecting that person to respond because I'm making an offer. I'm focusing on a condition, whatever the component is. All right, that amount of money, that's called direct response marketing. I'm spending the money. I'm expecting 30 responses, or I'm expecting 10 responses, or because each piece of marketing is different. It's got to have a different expectation. I'm not going to do a greeting card, mail it out to 500 patient files and expect 75 new patients.
Right.
But if I'm spending this amount of money and I'm expanding my outreach or something like that, and I'm spending $5,000 on something else, I'm going to expect a certain direct response. But when you have that bigger and bigger pile of money, now all of a sudden you're owning the market, right? You're able to have those components that's doing, I don't know. I think I mentioned on the last episode where everywhere they look, they see the McMurtry Clinic. They see it on all the kids' little league jerseys. They see it on the fence out. They see it in the gymnasiums. Everywhere they go, that you're the doctor for the various high schools, right? And they're on the duffel bags, and it's everywhere you go. It's at the local diner. You're sponsoring, and you have a placemat in there. You're getting a billboard on the main drag. Now, Dr. Shannon, if you get a billboard on the main drag, are you looking? That's costing you $3,000 a month to be on the main drag going through town, right? $3,000 a month. Are you expecting a direct response off of that? No.
Nope.
No, that's where I'm answering your question. When you get somebody doing $100,000 a month and they're setting aside up to $10,000, yes, we're looking to saturate the market to where no one else can come in and compete.
I just thought of something. We've had one episode on this subject of marketing. We're in the middle of another one. We might have a third episode coming. I'm not sure where we're going to end up. But the listeners are meeting their marketing guru, their social media expert. They're having a 5-minute conversation, or they're saying, hey, I bought this marketing program offline for $3,000. There is no way that you can really dial it in the way it needs to be done without knowing what type of business you're running, what is your concept, what are you hoping to achieve, what are your market parameters, what has your market responded to in the past. You see, it's too big of a topic. And I think that's why so many people are getting themselves in trouble right now, because number one, they haven't thought to that depth of it. And then they're meeting people, trusting them too soon with it. If you're going to hire somebody to do this work, you better know that they know you, what you're trying to achieve, and that they know what they're doing too.
Well, that's why some of those nuances have been that those groups that have honed in on how to communicate the message in marketing for specific conditions, right? It's not necessarily about building up the message or the purpose or the identity or the value systems of the McMurtry Clinic. It's about, well, this digital company has figured out the messaging for fibromyalgia, right? So they have figured out how to message fibromyalgia, which is a condition-specific type of marketing in a community, and that's going to have a shelf life. All right, everyone, just let me go ahead. That's why marketing is an art, not a science. That is not something that's going to last for the next 5 to 10 years. You better, that's that, what is it? I used to, Dr. Boutwell used to say, wham, bam, collect the dough, let them go. Right? But that's just how you, that's, you better make the money quick because it's going to be fleeting. So that's another point to think about from that standpoint of, what you're spending it on, how you're spending it on, and who you're trusting to oversee that message, because most of these companies are not going to take the time to really get to know you.
That's right.
What separates you? What makes you different? And that's that identity, that's that value, that's that belief system, that's that purpose. Very few of those marketing companies are ever going to get, you're not going to be able to spend enough money with them for them to bother to do that.
Well, frankly, because you and I have gone through a rebrand effort recently, most chiropractors can't afford that level of service. They can't afford $100,000 to invest into public relations, something that is overarching and getting to know you to that level, which is what it would take.
True branding.
Exactly. So you just have to be very careful out there. Like you were saying when we were talking about parameters, you're hesitant to do so because there's no one size fits all. Right? It has to be tailored, it has to be smart and intelligent and based on several factors.
Yeah, we hinted around on this on the last episode, and we were talking about how marketing is an art, not a science, and why is that? And you asked me, well, what's going to work in one market and what's not going to work in another market? What's going to work in a large metropolitan area versus what's going to work in a rural area? Here's what I know when I'm analyzing markets. I said that a while ago. I said marketing is messaging within a market. The key is to figure out the components that make up a good, strong market that give you the opportunity to go in there, own the messaging, so where you become the go-to doctor in any one community. So it's more about learning how to evaluate the right market. Okay, listeners? I'm really talking to the right starters out there or the associates that are looking to go out and branch out and open their own practice. Be very, very careful. Number one, who you hanging out with, who's forming those concepts, those initial concepts you're talking about, but also, you better start dialing in as to how to evaluate where the right market is. Because here's what I know, Dr. Shannon, all these years, when it comes to marketing, some people will say, well, I'm failing because the people in my area are different and that doesn't work in my market. All right. Here's what I've learned over the years. I've never been able to tell you what exact piece of marketing is going to work in any one market, which is interesting, right? Mm-hmm. For a guy that knows as much as I know about it, you never know for sure which one's going to be the ticket. Now, I've gotten pretty good at dialed in and going, well, there's pretty good odds that these three are going to work well for this one. But here's the ticket, and this should give everybody hope. You got to be willing to investigate and examine, research, and find the resources or the support, like with a group like Align, that can provide you the right way to do it. But I have never found one market. All right. So this is my contribution here. I have never found one market that doesn't have at least one vehicle of marketing that works and works well in it. Now, is that where I want to necessarily open my practice? Do I want to open my practice in a market that only has one that's really going to work? Probably not. But for those of you that are out there that maybe you are in one where there's really just one or two pieces of avenues of marketing in that town square that's going to work real well and consistently, there's still a way.
Right.
There's still a vehicle. That's my hope to tell you. People are people, and they're waiting for the right message at the right time to answer their right need. And I never can tell you what vehicle is going to work, but there's always been at least one. Now, my goal is for our right starters to go to a town much like, I'll give you a quick shout out here locally recently. Our own Dr. Nicole Mothy.
Yeah.
Right? Nicole Mothy, she just had her two biggest months back to back.
Yes, man. Yep.
So proud of her. Her two biggest months back to back after years of practicing, and she's gone through some serious trials,
Sure.
personally, but she's a great example. She was in a really tough market out in Colorado, could only get to a certain plateau. She moves across the country, and she came to a 5-star market. I told her, I said, you can go to Texas if you want to. That's where she was wanting to go.
Right.
I said, you can go to West Texas if you want. I said, but I know where there's a market. And now she gets to go in there, and what? She doesn't have to fight for the new patient.
That's right.
The marketing, there's so many vehicles of marketing that work in that town, and now she gets to feed off of that, and she doesn't have to push and prod for that growth all the time.
In fact, she's been just steady Eddie with referrals, really ever since she stopped doing so much active marketing. And there's things that she would like to get back to doing. Of course, now that some of the personal tribulations are beginning to fade, I think she's going to be able to do that. But that's a great point. That market right there is a lot easier to find out what's working and get established than another. You have to be careful when you're choosing those things.
That's why I made the point. I was just saying, you first have to evaluate your market before you can evaluate marketing. And then you got down to the question you asked me earlier in the episode, well, how much should you spend in marketing? Well, it depends on what market you're in, right? And then what system do you have inside your walls? The vast majority of the issues of the listeners that are listening to this show, let me sum it up right here. The vast majority of the issues of the practitioners that are listening are found inside your walls. Some of them are found in between your ears, but I'll assure you 90% of it is found inside the internal walls. It's not the market. There are avenues that we can tie into to strategically bring the marketing and the return of investment into the practice. But write that down, listeners. The vast majority of your issues are found in your efficiency, proficiency, productivity, and profitability within the walls of your practice, or it's found in your attitude, action, concepts, and procedures. Also can be found and identified within the walls of your practice, or it's the office flow, the patient flow, procedures, and systems that are within, again, all inside the walls. Marketing is always going to be there. But you've got to have all that fixed before you can really count on the marketing outside of it, right? So, and so many people are just throwing that life preserver overboard. They've got so many issues on board their ship. Their ship is taking on water, and they're throwing life preservers out to the guys that are already in a raft out there, right? They're throwing life preservers to the people saying, please save me. And they're throwing it that they're hoping marketing is going to be the answer. And look, if you got a pain model and you're running them through, and you have one of these condition specific programs that have $200,000 of capital expenditure tied to them, and you have to process 50 new patients a month just to make it profitable, right? Because you and I need another episode on this one.
We will. Because
that type of marketing, you have to run 50 through, because that system or those protocols, your closing ratio on that condition specific marketing is like 10, it's like 10 to 20%.
Yeah, it's
You're
really
having
low.
to process 50 just to get 5 to 10 to accept these exorbitant amounts of care plans for the neuropathy or the knee compression or whatever it is. You're running yourself ragged. And if you say, well, I don't do that, my staff does it. Well, then you're running your patients ragged. It's still a dumb business model. Right? That's not sustainable for the long term. Yeah, you're going to make some money for 2 or 3 years, but you're going to run ragged doing it.
We're going to have to cut it here because we're up against the clock again. But as we're talking, I've got more notes that I've made and questions that I want to ask. So are you good for one more on marketing?
I don't think we could ever get done talking about marketing because it encompasses so many different factors and parameters. It intersects in so many different ways inside of a practice. So we can certainly go into marketing. And now's a good time of year to be talking about it, right?
Sure.
Because you're coming into the spring, summer, and the fall, which is some of the best times to have your marketing calendar set.
I have a feeling that the listeners will be putting a favorite on this one and be coming back to it periodically as their year develops, as they look to set their marketing calendar. So we're going to continue this conversation. We have to. We don't have enough time to cover it all today. So we're going to continue the conversation, but the podcast probably won't be released sequentially. It's coming, but there are going to be other podcasts before the next marketing one. Thank you so much for joining us. This is not our usual podcast. I want you to know that. We are doing some teaching here, but we have to do some teaching to get the conceptual ideas to you so you can understand them. So I'm glad that you're joining us, and I hope that you did find it empowering, motivating, and inspiring. And join us next week. God bless.
Follow our show. You can share it with friends, of course, and we'd love for you to contact us at mailbag@amcfamily.com. In addition, you're always invited to attend or join us at a summit. Of course, registration is required. And we would love for you to check out the loads of free content we provide to social media every single week. Until next time.